Hello friends, I welcome you all here at TNV Academy. In this video, we are going to explain you the clause 9.1 of ISO 14001-2015, which addresses the monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation of the environmental management system, that is EMS of an organization. Now, let us know what is covered in this video session. Under this video session, we would explain you how the EMS policies, objectives, and targets are monitored, measured, and results are evaluated as per the requirements of the clause 9.1 of the ISO 14001-2015. Now, let's know what can be reference clause within standards or the other standards which is useful for this chapter. Clause 3 of the ISO 14001-2015 can be useful reference clause to understand this chapter. External reference for the chapter. Under external references, you may refer few environmental family standards like ISO 14004-2016, ISO 14005-2019 along with ISO 19011-2018 and ISO 17021-1, which are useful materials to understand this chapter. Now, let's explain you the outcome of the chapter. By understanding this chapter, you will learn to interpret and verify the application of the key requirements and principle of the clause 9.1 along with their subclauses 9.1.1 and 9.1.2 of the 14001-2015 to the existing process of the organization. Further, you will understand the point 1 monitoring and measuring process. Point 2 evaluation of performance. Point 3 root cause analysis of problems. Point 4 assessment of compliance of legal requirements. Point 5 area of improvements and further improvements. Now, let's understand the brief introduction of clause 9.1. The clause 9.1 is general clause and is further divided into two subclauses 9.1.1 and 9.1.2. Now, let's understand this by explaining each subclauses. Subclause 9.1.1. It states that the organization shall monitor, measure, analyze, and evaluate its environmental performance. This subclause requires that there should be a plan for monitoring and measuring the EMS. The plan shall include what to be monitored and measured, when it shall be done, what is the mechanism for monitoring and measurement, how the results shall be analyzed, only calibrated or verified monitoring and measurement equipment is used. EMS performance information shall be communicated as part of legal obligations. Evidence of monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation results shall be kept as documented information. Let's explain you the second subclause 9.2.2. This clause addresses the evaluation of compliance of legal requirements. It requires that the organization shall determine the time frame for regular evaluation of compliances as applicable, do evaluation of compliances as applicable and identify the gap in the same, plan actions, if any required, to comply with any non-compliances, maintain the record of compliances as applicable and status of the same. Now, let's know the requirement of the clause as explained in standard. 9.1 monitoring, measurement, analysis and evaluation. 9.1.1 general. The organization shall monitor, measure, analyze and evaluate its environmental performance. The organization shall determine point 1 what needs to be monitored and measured. Point 2 the methods for monitoring, measurement, analysis and evaluation as applicable to ensure valid results. Point 3 the criteria against which the organization will evaluate its environmental performance and appropriate indicators. Point 4. When the monitoring and measuring shall be performed. Point 5. When the results from monitoring and measurement shall be analyzed and evaluated. The organization shall ensure that calibrated or verified monitoring and measurement equipment is used and maintained as appropriate. The organization shall evaluate its environmental performance and the effectiveness of the environmental management system. The organization shall communicate relevant environmental performance information both internally and externally as identified in its communication process and as required by its compliance obligations. The organization shall retain appropriate documented information as evidence of the monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation results. 9.1.2 Evaluation of compliance. The organization shall establish, implement, and maintain the processes needed to evaluate fulfillment of its compliance obligations. The organization shall: Point A. Determine the frequency that compliance will be evaluated. Point 2. Evaluate compliance and take action if needed. Point 3. Maintain knowledge and understanding of its compliance status. The organization shall retain documented information as evidence of the compliance evaluation results. Now, let's understand the mandatory documents and records to be maintained under this clause. Under this clause, the organization has to maintain following records to become compliant with ISO 14001:2015. First, monitoring and measurement results, clause 9.1.1. Second, evidence of the compliance evaluation results, clause 9.1.2. Now, let's explain you some additional factors to understand this clause. The Environmental Standard 14001:2015 requires that the performance and subsequent improvement is measured and monitored. It is required to consider what should be measured, the methods used, and when data should be analyzed and reported on. As a general recommendation, organizations should determine what information they need to evaluate environmental performance and effectiveness. In other words, it can be said that once the EMS is implemented, clause 9.1 requires regular monitoring of the system as well as periodic reviews to: Point 1. Evaluate the effectiveness of the implemented EMS. Point 2. Objectively evaluate how well the minimal requirements of the standards are fulfilled. Point 3. Verify the extent to which the organizational, stakeholder, and legal requirements have been met. Point 4. Demonstrate that planning has been successfully implemented. Point 5. Assess the performance of processes. Point 6. Determine the need or opportunities for improvements within the environmental management system. Now, we will explain how to write non-conformity under this clause 9.1. If you understood the requirements of this clause and subclause which must be implemented in an organization, then you can verify the implementation of the same, and findings can be raised and will be categorized as non-conformity. You may categorize it as minor or major by analyzing the impacts of findings. To better understand the writing of findings, kindly refer the AFAR sample through this slide. Now, let's understand common mistakes which auditors do while verifying the documents and records of the organization during audit under this clause. Point 1. No checking of calibration records. Point 2. Sometimes auditors start thinking for the option while auditor need to understand the organization process of EMS monitoring, measurement, and evaluation. Point 3. Auditors start consulting activities, then emphasizing on audit verification. Point 4. Auditors asking for FSSAI license or any other registration certificates like GST, ROC, etc., which did not require or applicable on the organization. Dear friends, we have now come to the conclusion of this training session. See you soon with an exciting new topic. Till then, goodbye.